For our viewers across Africa and the rest of the world, this is NC Continental Prime with me, Blessings Mosugu. We start the news at this hour in West Africa, where the appellate court in Lagos has affirmed the re-election of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu and his deputy, Obafemi Hamzat, as upheld by the Lagos State Governorship Election Tribunal on the 25th of September 2023. A three-man panel led by Justice Yagata Nimpar, who delivered the judgment on the appeal filed by opposition parties, dismissed claims of forged credentials, questions of citizenship status, and issues surrounding candidate nomination, as well as sponsorship as raised by both petitioners. Ni Omoni has more.
The Lagos Court of Appeal dismissed the appeal of PDP's Olajide Adediran seeking to overturn the tribunal's judgment affirming Babajide Sanwo-Olu and Obafemi Hamzat's election. The three-man judge panel, led by Justice Yagata Nimpar, held that Adediran could not claim unfair hearing as his additional witness statement was filed outside the stipulated time. Additionally, the court held that Adediran cannot challenge Sanwo-Olu and Hamzat APC primary as he was neither an aspirant nor APC member. The court also stated that nomination, sponsorship, and candidate qualifications are pre-election matters for regular courts, not the tribunal. On the forged certificate allegation, the court held that the Constitution does not require attached certificates, and Adediran failed to prove forgery claims by not providing the original.
What next is that we're going to review the situation and we'll take a decision.
The court dismissed the appeal of Labour Party's Gbadebo Roads Viva. The appeal was based on claims that the deputy governor renounced his Nigerian citizenship. However, the justices found that the appellant did not provide sufficient evidence to prove the claims. Under Section 28 of the Nigerian Constitution, Nigerians do not lose their citizenship even if they take citizenship in another country. Therefore, the court determined that the burden of proof was not fulfilled.
As far as we are concerned, the team of the respondents in this case have been consistent. The rule of law, the Evidence Act, the Electoral Act, and the regulation in which all of us as litigants, especially in election matters, must comply with. There's no shortcut to it. We have always said election proceedings, election petition are sui juris. So what applies in ordinary civil matter may not also apply.
The election took place months ago. The people of the state voted for us. So that for us is the most important. The ability to convince fellow citizens, Lagosians, on what we intend to do. So those are the things we must focus on and do. So we will not be distracted by this. It's important. It's part of our process. In my view, it improves our democratic credentials. However, we must do what we have to do. And that's what the governor and myself and the whole cabinet, that's what we are doing.
The ruling leaves the victory of the governor and his deputy intact as they continue in their roles leading the state. This double affirmation deals a significant setback to the petitioners in their attempt to invalidate the election outcomes through litigation. Ni Omoni, reporting for News Central Lagos.
And now to discuss this, I'm joined by two gentlemen, Barrister Monday Ubani, a legal practitioner, and of course Monday Mawah, a member of the Labour Party. I mean, today is not Monday. I would have said happy Monday to you both, but thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on the news.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. It's good to be here again.
It's good to have you join us again. Now, Barrister Monday Ubani, let me start with you. What legal criteria or standards did the Court of Appeal likely consider in dismissing Abdulaziz Adediran of the PDP and the Labour Party's gubernatorial candidate Gbadebo Roads Viva's suit against Sanwo-Olu's election?
Again for having me. The fact of the matter is that the election petition in Nigeria, the burden of proof on the petitioner is too high. There are three grounds under which you can have an election in which somebody has been declared a winner nullified. One is on the issue of qualification. The other is the issue of non-compliance with the Electoral Act, the Constitution, and even the regulation guiding the electoral process. Or if you are alleged to have committed some level of corruption in the electoral process. And then the third one is that if you have not secured the majority vote or you have secured a majority vote in order for you to be validly elected. If you have all that as a ground in election petition, and there is evidence that those has not been complied by the person who INEC has declared the winner, of course, the court will now upturn the result, the announcement of that result, and then order that certificate of return be given to the person who has gone to the court, and as the petitioner. It's a very onerous responsibility, and it's sui generis. Within 21 days, you have to file all the necessary processes, including the witness statement on oath. And if you don't, it becomes very, very impossible for you to succeed in proving your case. Of course, you hear what the Court of Appeal said. There are some allegations of qualification, an issue of citizenship, that they raised, and in their grounds of appeal. And the court was of the opinion, as long as that criteria was not satisfied, then the appeal lacks merit, and has gone ahead to dismiss the appeal of both Labour and that of PDP. So the next bus stop, they should approach is the Supreme Court, because from the things we have heard, I think they will be going to Supreme Court and finally to test what the Supreme Court will actually say concerning the election that took place, in which the electorate elected the present governor of Lagos State. So I don't think they will want to stop at this level. But for now, the Court of Appeal has validated the election, which INEC pronounced, which the tribunal affirmed, and now the Court of Appeal has further affirmed. We probably will be expecting the Supreme Court for a final say on this matter.
Okay, Barrister Ubani, still on that criteria, how will these criteria apply to similar election dispute cases that might arise in Nigeria?
Yeah, what we're having most times is that there's a bit of inconsistency, with the Court of Appeal, and that is the problem. Is worrisome. Sometimes there are these issues that are raised that you consider a pre-election matter, especially when it concerns the issue of nomination and sponsorship by a political party. And in several instances, including the Supreme Court, have actually held that this is purely a pre-election issue and should not come before the tribunal, the court. The tribunal lacks jurisdiction. But most times we also see, a turnaround on the part of the Court of Appeal. Recently, there was one that was purely a pre-election issue, but the Court of Appeal had to now nullify the election of somebody that was elected in an allegation of a matter that appears to be pre-election. So this inconsistency most times, creates some level of doubt in the mind of election, petitioners. And sometimes it places, as I said earlier, a very heavy burden. What has happened with election of 2023 and with the outcome from the judiciary? And the truth of the matter is that we seem not to have made much progress, with regard to the Electoral Act of 2022, and that's the truth. If we agree that we have now entered into the realm of electronic intervention in our electoral process, like the issue of beavers and electronic transmission, and we find out that the court now said, no, there's no compulsion on the part of INEC to electronically transmit, that means that we're back to 2010 Electoral Act. We have not made much progress and all that. So despite all the millions that was spent in order for us to improve on our electoral process through the amendment of the Act, we're not seeing so much improvement with judicial decision affirming those improvements that has been done on the Electoral Act.
Right.
So that's why I'm a bit worried here.
Okay. Barrister Mawah, now over to you. The appeal court in Lagos has affirmed the judgment of the tribunal and has confirmed the return of Babajide Sanwo-Olu and Obafemi Hamzat as the governor and his deputy of Lagos State. Was this expected, or what is your take on it? Were you surprised by that?
Well, to be sincere with you, like the learned senior advocate of Nigeria just stated, the burden that the new, is it the new electoral act per se? I don't think it's new electoral act. The burden that the judgment, particularly of the Supreme Court arising from the presidential election, has now placed on the petitioner. It is too heavy. Like I said somewhere, either in AIT or somewhere, and I told them, I said, the burden is beyond human reach, and law must not be made in such a way that cannot be complied with, or rules must not be laid down that will exceed human attainment. But I can tell you for sure that what we have at the moment, a petitioner who is alleging no compliance with the Electoral Act or the INEC regulation, you can never skate through in any court in Nigeria as of today. Because look at what transpired at the presidential poll and the Supreme Court. What the Supreme Court is telling us is that if you are to prove your case as a presidential candidate in an election court, you have to call the agent that manned the polling unit across. For instance, if you are challenging 5 states or 7 states, you have to call one each of those polling agents. For instance, in Ogun State, we have over 5,080-something polling units. So if you are claiming you won election in Ogun State, you have to call 5,000-something polling agents to come and testify for you individually, for you to succeed in Ogun State alone. So imagine if you have about 7 states to call witnesses. First, you have just 21 days to file your petition, and 2, you have a limited number of time to prove your case at the court, whether at the Court of Appeal, because Court of Appeal is the court of first instance in presidential election. You have a limited number of time, either 10 days or 15 days, but whatever date is given to you, you can never call, you will never be able to call 5,000 witnesses. Therefore, there is no way you can prove no compliance in any election, particularly presidential election and governorship election in any state in this country. So I think I wasn't expecting anything different from what I had this evening, because where are they going to get the polling agent who will now come and testify in all of those areas? They were saying that election was a compromise in Lagos State. So it is difficult, it is pathetic, and it is worrisome where we found ourselves now. Personally, I was expecting the Supreme Court will, by judicial activism, whittle down this burden on the petitioner. But somehow, with the greater respect to the lord of the Supreme Court, the body seems to have been heightened on the petitioner. So if you're a petitioner, you are going to court today, be rest assured that first and foremost, the respondent is having 70% ahead of you.
All right.
Going to succeed.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Barrister Mawah. Now, back to you, Barrister Ubani. In 30 seconds, I want to know your opinion on this, and I'm going to ask the same question to Barrister Mawah. Now, looking at the entire process that, of this governorship election and even the presidential election, would you say that the trust of Nigerians in general, based off of the electoral body as well as the judiciary in Nigeria has been strengthened, or would you say that they have done otherwise with these recent occurrences? Barrister Ubani first.
I want to correct an impression. I'm not yet a senior advocate. I'm only a senior lawyer. It's very important to correct that. Now, concerning the issue of confidence on the process, whether electoral or even judicial, I won't render any discouraging verdict. I will only say that we have done what we're supposed to do by coming out to vote. And in some of the instances, the electorate intention and love and likeness and desire for some of their candidates, were actualized in 2023. And that is the truth, especially during the presidential and National Assembly election. But in some instances, there was this expectation that were not met. But that will not make me now to affably make a verdict of a loss of confidence on the part of the citizens, towards these two processes, the judicial and the electoral. Rather, what we'll do now is to look at where we have erred, where some errors needs to be corrected, for the next election, especially advocating for more intervention of the issue of technology. Driven electoral process. Let's now probably gravitate towards even electronic voting. Let it even come to that level of voting rather than issue of accreditation now where we deploy technology. Let's also deploy technology in the voting proper. As you are voting, the result is being recorded and known by everyone and all that. That is one of the improvements we can make, to allow less intervention of a human factor that actually, mess up the entire process. And then reduce the issue of acts of office. Let me say this before I go. The issue of acts of office, we need to address it. If we don't address it,
we may never have free and fair election in Nigeria. If we don't address this issue of unhindered access to the treasury by political office holders when they get into power, because of weak institutions, we may never have free and fair election because of desperation that always comes with electoral process.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister Ubani. Barrister Mawah, very, very quickly, what would you say about that?
Well, myself in particular, coming from the youth angle, who constituted 60% of those that turned out in this 2023 election, I must say without fear of anything that INEC has disappointed the entire Nigerian youth. And it's going to take divine intervention for the youth to believe in the process from INEC in future time. Because when we are preparing for 2023 election, the assurance given to us by INEC was that everything was going to be electronical, right? Beginning from the accreditation, then the uploading of results, that it was going to be electronical, that from the comfort of your house, you could see the computation of results, how they were being uploaded. Unfortunately, nothing like that came to pass. So how do you now tell an average Nigerian youth that INEC will do better in 2027? And I think that doubt is going to cause problem in 2027. And also, with the way we are going, if we are not careful, desperation in the political system is going to increase, especially when people believe that after the election, you cannot get justice from any other place.
Okay.
So people want to win election at all costs.
All right.
I think that is where we found ourselves.
All right. On this note, I want to say a very big thank you, Barrister Monday Ubani and Barrister Monday Mawah. Thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure.